This was never just a feel-good baseball movie. A League of Their Own looks warm, nostalgic, and safe on the surface, but underneath it carries the weight of a fight Hollywood almost erased. It tells the story of women who stepped onto a field never designed for them, played under rules meant to shrink them, and proved their worth while smiling for a country that doubted they belonged there at all. What most viewers never realized is how close this film came to betraying the very women it was supposed to honor. Entire storylines were cut, characters reshaped, and moral lines redrawn after real players pushed back against Hollywood's instincts. Every decision behind the scenes had consequences, and every correction changed the soul of the movie. What survived wasn't accidental, it was earned. And the first battle to save this film happened long before the cameras ever stopped rolling. 1. The film almost betrayed its own women. At the very beginning, A League of Their Own nearly failed the people it claimed to honor. The original cut included a romantic moment between Dottie Hinson and Jimmy Dugan, a near kiss that would have reframed Dottie's exit from the league as emotional weakness rather than moral choice. The intention was dramatic tension. The consequence would have been historical erasure. When Penny Marshall screened the footage for real AAG PBL players, the response was swift and furious. These women had lived through wartime separations, marriages formed under draft notices, and loyalty forged under fear. Infidelity, even implied, did not reflect their reality. Faced with that backlash, Marshall cut the entire storyline, including scenes that softened Jimmy and complicated Dottie. The result was not a simpler film, but a truer one. Cause led directly to correction. The movie stopped chasing Hollywood drama and started protecting lived experience. That single decision shaped everything that followed. 2. Dottie's strength was built, not acted. Once the film committed to truth, it demanded something rare from its lead: athletic credibility without cinematic shortcuts. Gina Davis was not a lifelong athlete. She had avoided sports most of her life. But Penny Marshall needed a catcher who could anchor wide shots without editing tricks. Davis trained relentlessly, learning mechanics most actors fake. The now iconic split at home plate was not a stunt or a flourish. It was a calculated risk. Davis asked to schedule late in production so she could prepare. When she executed it, she locked her body into position and couldn't stand back up. Crew members had to lift her. That strain matters. You can feel it in the shot. Dottie's authority doesn't come from dialogue or music cues. It comes from physical control earned the hard way. The cause was uncompromising standards. The effect was a performance that never breaks illusion. Audiences believed Dottie because her body did. 3. Star power almost overwhelmed the story. Madonna's casting threatened the film in a different way. She arrived not as an actress asking permission, but as a global icon accustomed to owning the frame. She pursued the role aggressively, accepted modest pay, and trained harder than expected. But fame changes gravity on a set. At times, her presence pulled focus, created friction, and tested Penny Marshall's authority. Yet, that tension became an asset. May Mortabito needed audacity, sexuality, and defiance. Madonna didn't invent those qualities for the role. She redirected them. The sliding injuries were real. The bruises accumulated. The commitment was undeniable. Where this could have turned into indulgence, Marshall maintained control by grounding every performance in the team dynamic. No one character could outweigh the collective. The cause was celebrity ambition. The effect was a character who electrified scenes without hijacking the story. The movie survived star power by refusing to orbit it. 4. Authenticity was non-negotiable, even at a cost. Penny Marshall enforced one rule above all others: if you couldn't play, you couldn't stay. This eliminated talented performers who could act but not move convincingly on a diamond. Marisa Tomei's failed audition became legend not because of ego, but because of principle. Acting wasn't enough. Mechanics mattered. Wide shots would expose weakness instantly. Marshall understood that sports films collapse when viewers sense cheating. That discipline filtered through casting, choreography, and blocking. It forced performers to earn their presence frame by frame. The cause was respect for audience intelligence. The effect was a film that aged well. 30 years later, it still holds because it never asked viewers to suspend disbelief about the game itself. The baseball is real. That reality anchors everything emotional that follows. 5. Rosie O'Donnell quietly became the team's spine. If Madonna brought electricity, Rosie O'Donnell brought cohesion. She arrived with childhood baseball experience and immediate credibility on the field, but her real contribution happened between takes. Long production days drain morale. Extras grow restless. Energy dips. Rosie filled that vacuum instinctively, entertaining crowds, lifting spirits, and turning downtime into community. Her playful rivalry with Madonna diffused tension rather than inflaming it. More importantly, her presence reinforced the ensemble nature of the story. Doris Murphy feels authentic because Rosie never plays her as exceptional. She plays her as necessary. The cause was emotional intelligence. The effect was a cast that functioned like a team rather than competing personalities. That chemistry reads on screen, especially for viewers old enough to recognize when a movie feels lived in instead of assembled. 6. The ending refused to explain itself on purpose. The final collision at home plate remains unresolved by design. Penny Marshall filmed it so neither interpretation could dominate. Did Dottie drop the ball intentionally to let Kit have her moment? Or did Kit finally beat her fair and square? Gina Davis played the scene as a choice. Lori Petty played it as victory. Marshall refused to clarify. That ambiguity frustrates some viewers, but it is the film's most honest decision. Real life doesn't always declare winners cleanly, especially for women navigating sacrifice and ambition in the same breath. The cause was narrative restraint. The effect was longevity. Decades later, people are still arguing about the ending, and that argument keeps the film alive. 7. The famous line was born from real anger. "There's no crying in baseball" was never meant to exist. It emerged when Bitty Schramm's genuine emotion triggered something unscripted in Tom Hanks. Jimmy Dugan's outburst wasn't comedic polish. It was frustration boiling over. The cast's stunned reactions were real. Penny Marshall recognized instinct when she saw it and never asked for another take. That line endures because it contains contradiction. It's funny, cruel, absurd, and revealing all at once. It exposes Jimmy's damage while reinforcing the harsh emotional rules the women were forced to navigate. The cause was emotional truth. The effect was a moment that entered American vernacular without losing its bite. 8. Hollywood didn't believe the audience existed. Before the film ever reached theaters, 20th Century Fox rejected it outright. Executives believed a movie about women's baseball lacked market appeal. Penny Marshall took the script elsewhere. Sony said yes. When the film opened against Batman Returns, analysts predicted collapse. Instead, word of mouth carried it. The second week drop was minimal. By the third week, it overtook a superhero juggernaut. The cause was underestimation. The effect was one of the highest-grossing baseball films ever made. The audience had always existed. Hollywood simply hadn't respected it. 9. The real story was bigger than the movie. The film hints at the AAGPBL, but reality was harsher and richer. Women were required to attend charm school, wear skirts, maintain femininity, and smile through injury. They played doubleheaders, traveled constantly, and sustained careers under scrutiny men never faced. Yet they saved professional baseball during wartime and proved they belonged long after. The movie survives because it doesn't overstate that victory. It shows just enough. The cause was historical pressure. The effect was a legacy that waited decades to be fully acknowledged. Progress doesn't arrive because it's allowed. It arrives because someone insists on being taken seriously. A League of Their Own endures not because it flatters history, but because it corrected itself when it mattered. In the end, A League of Their Own lasts because it tells a deeper truth than wins and losses. It reminds us that progress rarely arrives fully formed or fairly rewarded. It is built by people who show up anyway, who perform under rules designed to test their limits, and who refuse to disappear once the moment passes. These women didn't just keep baseball alive during a war. They exposed how easily history overlooks those who don't fit its preferred image. The film's greatest lesson is restraint, knowing when to fight, when to endure, and when to let the work speak louder than outrage. Its legacy lives not in nostalgia, but in credibility earned the hard way. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on why it still matters, and why so many stories like it were never told. Subscribe to the channel, share your favorite scene or memory in the comments, and join us as we uncover the classic films Hollywood almost got wrong and the truths that saved them.